When we think of the word family, we usually think of a warm home and people who love us. Unfortunately, not everyone has been blessed with a happy and secure family. Thousands of children all over the world live and grow up without the support from those they need the most. Luckily, many kind people look forward to adopting children and giving them a place to call home. Still, despite a smile on someone's face, you can never tell what they are feeling inside. You don't know whether or not they're happy and whether they have a happy home life. Here's a story about a teenage boy who had the courage to interrupt a judge in court and speak up about the family that was adopting him. Adopting children is a beautiful yet very challenging experience. One has to go through the process of fostering a child prior to being able to officially become their parent. On August 13, 2018, Sarah Kozad was sitting through the adoption process in court with her husband, with their 2 foster children next to them. It was the day when the court was supposed to decide whether Sarah could legally adopt the children, becoming a mother for the first time. Sarah's entire family was sitting in front of the judge, impatiently waiting for the final decision. It was time for the judge to speak up and say whether Sarah and her husband could adopt the 2 boys sitting next to them. Then, out of nowhere, the older boy named Deshaun stood up and did something no one saw coming. He interrupted the court proceedings to say a few words about the Kozad family, which left Sarah and her husband in tears. Court proceedings last long enough without factoring in the anxiety-filled period of waiting for the verdict. Sarah felt as if the day had lasted for years, as she anticipated the judge's final decision. After all, the future of this 26-year-old, who wanted to become a mother of 2 foster children, was quite unclear. Being a foster mom and adopting children had been Sarah's dream forever. This day truly was a big deal in her life. 7 years prior to this very important courtroom proceeding, Sarah met the love of her life, Stuart Shank, who soon became her husband. She didn't hesitate to let Stuart know that one of her biggest dreams was to become a foster mom. Stuart liked the idea of him and Sarah being foster parents, and 7 years later, they sat in court together hoping to adopt 2 beautiful boys. Sarah had always been passionate about adopting children, and so this day felt like a dream come true. If you think about it, it's actually quite weird to start talking about adopting children on your first date. However, the idea of becoming a foster mom was such an important part of Sarah's life that she couldn't resist but talk about it all the time. To her surprise, Stuart took the news quite well. "I was impressed with how Shank rolled with it," Kozad said in an interview she gave back in September 2018. "The 2 seemed like a perfect match." It's quite uncommon for people to agree on their first date that they will adopt children. The fact that this happened seemed to mean that Stuart and Sarah were truly made for one another. They fell in love quickly and got married in 2014. The first thing they did after getting married was, of course, the honeymoon. But as soon as they got back from the trip, Sarah and Stuart started planning their journey toward becoming foster parents. Sarah was so eager to become a foster mom that she nearly forgot how young she was. With only 23 years of age, she always dreamed of adopting younger children. After all, she lacked the experience to deal with kids who were close to her age. Up until that point, she always imagined adopting a younger child and starting a family with her husband. Both Sarah and Stuart were excited to take the first steps toward becoming foster parents. They started taking in children and raising them as their own, helping them with their schoolwork and social lives. Most children they took in as foster parents were very young. At the beginning, they only fostered newborn babies and toddlers, and that's what the social worker saw fit for their case. After all, they were both very young themselves. Their first task was to take care of a baby named Michael over the weekend. 3-year-old Michael ended up staying at Sarah and Stuart's place for a week instead of the 2 days, as it was initially planned. It seemed like they were already connecting with the child, and it was difficult for them to let go of him. Nevertheless, Sarah and Kozad knew that being foster parents perfectly suited their personality and the overall situation they were in. The couple were asked to take in Michael only for a couple of days, and they had no problem with that. Little did they know that 3-year-old Michael would completely capture their hearts, changing their plans entirely. That weekend turned into a week, and that week into months, and those months into years, wrote Kozad on their website Love What Matters. They didn't even notice how quickly the time passed by. Sarah and Stuart didn't expect to take in Michael for a longer period of time, but they grew fond of him very quickly. They were supposed to keep an eye on him over a weekend, but somehow the weekend turned into a couple of months. Soon after, they were visited by someone else. Sarah and Stuart were surprised by a visit from no other than Michael's older brother, Deshaun. This was the moment that the family came together for the first time. We cannot even describe this heartwarming moment without a few tears escaping our eyes. When Deshaun first saw his little brother, he ran up to him, picked him up, and hugged him for a few minutes straight. The brothers couldn't hide their excitement as Sarah and Stuart watched from the side. After seeing this, Sarah was convinced that she had to do something. She couldn't let the brothers be separated again. The only thing Sarah and Stuart could do to prevent the brothers from being separated was to take in both of them. However, adopting a 10-year-old boy was not in Sarah's initial plans. She never visualized herself adopting a pre-teenager because, well, she was quite young herself. If she were to take this step, it would be against all of her plans. In that case, she would be only 13 years older than her foster child. Since Sarah and Stuart only planned on fostering and adopting babies and toddlers, they had no idea what it would be like to foster an older child, especially a preteen. Deshaun was 10 years old at the time, and his age was definitely a challenge for the upcoming foster parents. When Sarah started talking to Deshaun, she quickly realized that this change of plans might not be that big of a deal. Getting to know the kid certainly made things a bit easier. Sarah had a good reason not to plan on adopting older children. After all, she had no knowledge or experience needed for fostering an older child. On the other hand, she also knew that she couldn't let the two brothers be separated again. Besides, Deshaun's age was not the only obstacle on the road ahead. Sarah and Stuart were also occasionally taking care of other children, which made the situation even more challenging for the two. The young couple loved helping others, and they were always eager to jump in when someone needed a hand in a difficult situation. They had taken in 14 children total over the course of their fostering journey, and gave them the love and support they needed in dark times. Helping kids in need was everything Stuart and Sarah always wanted to do. It was difficult to stop after they fostered one child, so they kept taking kids in to help as many of them as they could. The two had a goal to help the children and even reunite them with their birth parents if possible. Sarah took some time to think about the situation and to decide what was the right next move for her. It was difficult to make a decision, but she finally pulled through. Luckily, she used her blog, Love What Matters, as an outlet to write about her feelings and to help her decide what to do next. We advocate for reunification whenever it's possible. The best part about fostering is seeing parents work tremendously hard to get their children back, Sarah wrote on her blog. At this moment, reuniting the boys and securing their future felt more important than the fact of Deshaun's age. At this point, it was clear that Sarah had decided to make an exception. Even though she never planned to foster, let alone adopt, an older child, seeing the two brothers reunited made her realize how important this truly was. When they looked at Michael and Deshaun together, Sarah and Stuart knew that the boys needed to be together in a safe and happy home. They decided to make an exception and work towards adopting both of them. The happy couple quickly found themselves in a very unexpected situation. They had to go with the flow of the adoption process, or else the two brothers would be separated again, which was not something Sarah and Stuart were willing to let happen. Even though adopting both of them was not in their plans, after spending a year together, Sarah and Stuart decided to move toward legal adoption of the boys. Soon after, they would find out whether or not the court would allow the adoption. Even though Sarah and Stuart worked hard on achieving their goals and ensuring a safe future for the boys, adoption procedures took way too much time. Despite all their efforts, it took another 6 months to get the ball rolling in the right direction. The case took a lot of time, and the two had to be patient. The boys were extremely excited about the idea of being reunited permanently. However, they had to wait quite a long time to find out if it was for real. This process went on for years, Sarah wrote later in her blog. Taking in 2 children, one of whom, now being a teenager, was going to be a wild ride for this young couple. Adopting one child is complicated enough, let alone adopting 2 of them at the same time. However, despite all the hardships and hard work, Sarah and Stuart were determined to achieve their goals. Even though things were moving slow, there was a positive side to the whole situation, as the family grew closer together and the brothers seemed happier than ever. Throughout the entire journey, Sarah wrote on her blog, Love What Matters, about all the hardships, obstacles, and outcomes they've dealt with. This entire experience had an enormous impact on the young couple. Besides teaching them important lessons about patience and effort, it taught them about the importance of love and family. Sarah and Stuart enjoyed every second they spent with Deshawn and Michael. They seemed like a complete family that belonged together. There was no way the couple would give that up, no matter how long it would take to complete the case in court. As it usually is in life, there's always something beautiful waiting for you on the other side. Even though they spent days stressing about the adoption process, all their efforts were finally rewarded. On August 13th of 2018, they finally didn't have to wait any longer to find out what would happen to their family. It was the date of the final court proceeding that would determine the outcome of all their hopes and efforts. Michael and Deshawn would stay together with Stuart and Sarah as their parents. After such a difficult ride, the couple was glad everything ended happily. The day was so special that everyone got emotional in court. Sarah and Stuart went through so much trouble trying to adopt the boys that everyone around them was happy for the outcome. However, it was something else that made Sarah cry her eyes out in the middle of the courtroom. It was an unexpected event that no one saw coming at the time, and it had to do something with the older brother Deshawn. We're sure that everyone is eager to find out what happened in court, so we'll get right to it. Luckily, someone recorded this moment while it played out in the courtroom. The recording showed the judge saying, "You think they all agree that this adoption ought to go forward?" Sarah and Stuart were sitting patiently waiting for the court procedure to finish, and then something amazing happened. Usually, when the judge asks one of the questions, no one expects people to speak up. But this was not the case this time. Out of nowhere, Deshawn spoke up and said, "Yeah, they all love us." It was completely unexpected, but his reply made everyone in the courtroom smile, while some of them even shed a few happy tears. His short remark made people laugh, but they didn't know he had something else to add. Just when everyone was ready for the court proceeding to be finished, Deshawn decided to make everyone laugh. However, a few moments later, Deshawn had a heartwarming comment to add in as well. "We love them. Our whole family is the best thing we ever had. I'm glad to have these people in my life. I'm glad to be their son. They're the best thing I ever had," he said, making his now parents shed a tear. The court day already had everyone emotional, but Deshawn's unexpected speech pushed Sarah over the edge. She burst into tears in the middle of the courtroom, and there were many others in the crowd who couldn't hold their emotions in either. These emotions showed just how important the boys were to Sarah and her husband Stuart. It also showed how loved and grateful Michael and Deshawn felt to be part of such a loving family. The fact that Sarah and Stuart wanted to adopt both Deshawn and Michael so they wouldn't be separated showed how much love they had for the boys. All their efforts to bring them together had finally paid off. Deshawn was so thankful to Sarah and Stuart for all their love that he continued his speech and said, "If I could wish for anything in the world, I would wish I could just love these people for the rest of my life." At this point, the entire court was overcome with emotions. Everyone present was so thrilled to see such a beautiful story come to a happy ending. Michael and Deshawn officially became a part of the family, and they would always have a safe home to go back to. Nothing could describe the emotions they felt at that moment. Sarah and Stuart were so happy they decided to throw a celebration party afterwards. The couple and their boys had a lot to celebrate as they officially became a family. It was time for Deshawn and Michael to take the couple's last name, Shank, and they couldn't have been happier about it. Deshawn was so excited that he even chose a middle name for himself. He picked Star because Sarah believed that it suited him well. "He defies every stereotype of a teenage boy," she added. It was time for the four of them to start a new life together. This new beginning made everyone so happy that they had nothing else to wish for but continuing happiness and health for their family. Sarah and Stuart claim that their life is so much better now that they have adopted Deshawn and Michael. They now have a happy family and a future to look forward to. Besides, they achieved the goal they worked hard and long for. Believe it or not, Sarah and Stuart decided to continue fostering even after adopting 2 children. Soon after, the following September, they adopted a 14-year-old child who needed a home. During this time, the couple was under training because they had fostered a child who was a victim of sex trafficking. This came with a lot of responsibility that required special training, but the couple was eager to learn more and help another child. Sarah kept using Love What Matters to express her feelings during the adoption journey. She wrote, "It's heartbreaking that these demographics of teens sit in social workers' offices or shelters for weeks or even months on end since so few homes are open to them. Sarah and Stuart kept going through training, which was designed to equip foster parents with the skills needed to handle adopting and fostering children with different backgrounds and experiences from their own. Both were happy to learn more and help out as many kids as they could. Some people would think that the adoption process is too difficult and living this way is too tiring. But Sarah and Stuart loved every moment of it. They couldn't imagine living their lives differently, as this was their long-term goal. No child should feel grateful to have a family love them, wrote Sarah. She firmly believed that every child deserved a family, and she wouldn't stop until she helped as many of them as she could. Her and Stuart continued to live happily with Michael and Deshawn, along with their other foster children they regularly take in.